Jaegers, each one had its very specific design look to it, as well as sort of where it came from. One of the first tasks that I put out was to help the rest of the crew realize just how big these things are. So I did just a close-up detail of Gypsy's arm from the shoulder down to about the wrist. And I put a 6-foot human standing on her shoulder and then just showed the level of detail that we would need just for that one section.
Mechanical designs are always the hardest to construct and rig and animate. They're harder than soft creatures. With hard pieces of a robot or any kind of machine, you really have to think about how the pieces fit together and what they're going to do when they move so they don't just pass into each other. And we had not just the outer armor to deal with, but all kinds of mechanisms underneath, particularly in the shoulder area and in the hips where the legs join the body. There was a lot of complex machinery in there, and it wasn't something that you could just build something that looked cool. It really had to work. It all had to function. So between the art design team on Guillermo's side and Alex Jaeger, our art director here, and our modelers and our riggers, we had to just sort of go through this process of building things, rigging them, moving them, looking at how it all worked, figuring out the problems, loop it back through design and through modeling and back to rigging again to really sort of sort out all those issues, especially the shoulders. The shoulders just, they kept me awake at night.
So from a model build perspective, we threw the kitchen sink at Gypsy. Pretty much everything we know how to do with asset building, we put into that model. Really for over a year, there was at least 2 of our very best model makers working on that asset at all times.
We had Gypsy from the beginning of the movie, and that paint scheme, and that set of geometry. And then we see Gypsy being refitted in the Shatter Dome, and then that Gypsy gets additionally progressively damaged over the Hong Kong battle, which then gets repaired again for the final battle underwater. At which point, another series of staged reveals of damage occur.
By the end of the film, there were 22 different versions of Gypsy Danger. Gypsy B2B, which is a gypsy with no left arm. And then the other arm gets torn off, and oil splatters on her chest, and her head gets cut open, so lots of different setups and different versions of the asset were required.
In a way, it's a bit like an animated feature where you have to account for wardrobe changes and all these different variations.
When you get to Striker Eureka, which is one of the newer Jaegers, we definitely changed the look in that as far as having more kind of high-tech panel detail, less visual fasteners, and the idea that it was made out of more composites and carbon fiber and Kevlar, that sort of thing, so a much lighter material so that it could move faster.
Big, strapping, athletic, the fastest of all the Jaegers, the most modern. With a few trick items like the blades and the cannons in the chest, but definitely the fastest and most athletic. Crimson Typhoon is the most agile and nimble of them, with the fanciest moves, the thundercloud formation with the 3 arms and the buzzsaw hands. So very graceful, very nimble, the fighting style that's the most kind of martial arts like. And then Cherno Alpha is the oldest and toughest and most brutal of the Jaegers, the most powerful, but probably also the slowest. And that's the Ukrainian, the Russian Jaeger. And I think that was my favorite design. There were fingers, but they were almost always balled up into giant sort of hammer fists, and the head was kind of a big formed bucket piece that couldn't really swivel, and I sort of enjoyed the limitations of that design a lot.